So what can you expect in part one of the speaking test? In part one, the examiner will be asking you questions about you, your life, your experiences, your opinions, and your interests. This is in contrast to part three, where the questions are more global discussion questions. They're a little bit deeper. So in part one, be prepared to talk about yourself. They're the kind of questions that you might get in a conversation between you and a friend, for example. Part one usually lasts for around 4 to 5 minutes. In this time, you will get maybe 10 questions. The register of your language in the exam is more informal. So imagine that the examiner is a person that you've just met at a party and they're asking you some questions about your life. So you should be friendly, informal, and chatty. You should be polite, but not too formal. Your replies to the question should be long enough to give some detail. So a short answer like, yes, I do, is not enough to get you the marks. One sentence is enough to answer the question, and then you should add some extra information if possible. So 1 to 3 sentences is something to aim for. Now let's look at some common topics for part one. Part one will usually start with some questions about your current life. So are you studying? Are you working? What's your job? What do you study? So you should be prepared for those questions specifically. After this, you will get questions on a topic. The topics include your home. So a question like, which room do you spend the most time in at home? Questions about your hometown are also common, so be prepared to talk about the place where you live, things you like, things you dislike. Like, what places would you recommend to tourists in your hometown? So when you're preparing, think of some features of your town. Entertainment and culture. This includes things like books, movies, and TV shows. For example, do you think music is important? This is an opinion question, and you can give a more global answer, but keep it personal as well. Talk about your own feelings about music. The internet is an increasingly common topic. For example, how often do you go online? Do you use social media? Sport and exercise. So in this area, we might get questions like, what is the most popular sport in your country? What do you do to keep fit? Do you do any activities? Do you have any sporting hobbies? Food is another topic that people love to talk about, and you can expect this in part one as well. So questions like, do you often eat fast food? What are some local dishes from your culture's cuisine? Work or studies. So they might ask you about your studies in particular. Why did you choose to study engineering, for example? What do you like about your job? Again, these are typical conversation questions you might get from anybody you meet. Shopping is another one. Do you ever buy anything online? How often do you go shopping? What are your habits? What are your routines? Family and friends. So what kind of things do you do together as a family? They might ask you about your family or who you're friends with. Health and lifestyle. So they might talk about your diet, how often you exercise, things like this. Remember, all of these questions you can talk about globally, but you need to bring it back to yourself when you're speaking.